Today, I invite you to reflect on the request made by the disciples to Jesus in our gospel reading. Lord, teach us to pray as John taught his disciples how to pray. Turuan mo kaming magdasal. Interesting request. I wonder what the prophet John the Baptist taught his disciples about prayer. Let me guess. He was a prophet. And being a prophet, he spoke to the people on behalf of God. He served as God's messenger or a spokesman. Now, how could he even dare to speak on behalf of God if he did not first of all try to find out what God wanted him to say? There were also a lot of false prophets in ancient Israel, and their messages were challenged by the genuine prophets of God. I am reminded, for example, of that funny story in the first book of Kings, chapter 22, about King Ahab of Israel, who did not want to consult the prophet Micaiah kasi daw kontrabida ito sa kanya. He always said bad things about him. Mas gusto niya yung prophets who said good things only about him. Yun daw ang one of the most clear signs that you're talking about the false prophet. Sip-sip, kumbaga. And so the king preferred to consult yung kanyang mga propetang bayaran whom Micaiah exposed as false prophets possessed by lying spirits. Delikado magpropeta sa panahong ito. At alam natin na maraming pinapatay dahil nagsasalita ng totoo. There is also the story in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, about the prophet Elijah challenging the prophets of Baal, whose prayers had no effect at all. And Elijah the prophet says to them, "Call louder. Dagdagan pa ninyo, dasal ninyo. Call your God louder. He might be taking a siesta." You see, all the prophets had to pray in order to be able to do their job, which was to prophesy. Jesus himself was mentored by John the Baptist in the desert. And so, we're told by the Gospels that after he was baptized by John, he went into the desert for 40 days in order to pray. I think that was upon the suggestion of John the Baptist. Among all the Gospels, it is Saint Luke who often portrays Jesus praying. And he says Jesus was praying when he was baptized. He was praying when he was transfigured. He prayed overnight when he selected his apostles. He prayed first before he taught them the Lord's Prayer. And he also prayed when he asked his disciples who he was for them. And remember, at the Garden of Gethsemane, when he agonized, he was praying. Siguro nagmamasid yung mga disciples. They must have been observing Jesus whenever he went into prayer and what happened to him after prayer. Somehow they knew that prayer was the source of his power and authority. It was at prayer that his divinity was manifested in the midst of his humanity, and we call it the Transfiguration. You see, prayer beautifies, prayer empowers. Prayer pacifies. Pero isa sa mga pinaka-common problems natin about prayer is that we very often associate it with talking to God. And it's a normal thing, you know. We talk a bit too much to God. And most of our petitions, when we say the prayers of the faithful, madalas yung pinaka-common ay, Lord, hear our prayer. Lord, hear our prayer. Parang nagdidemand tayo kay God na pakinggan niya tayo. Okay, no doubt, God listens to us when we speak to Him. But prayer is also about us listening to God when it is God's turn to speak to us. Remember the psalm that says, if today you hear the voice of the Lord, do not harden your hearts. Remember what Samuel had to learn from the time that he was a young boy, and God was trying to communicate to him. He was taught by the old priest. The next time you hear God's voice, you say, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. So, maybe we should ask, when we pray, do we listen? Do we listen with the heart, with the mind, with the soul? Okay lang if you want to talk to God. But please, don't forget to take time also to allow God to talk to you. In prayer, please take time to say, Lord, what would you like me? What would you wish to tell me? What are you asking of me? What are you telling me through the things that are happening in my life? And then, just be still and let God do the talking.